right, so we've had our look at locations in Cincinnati. A couple of more things about buying out of home. It's important to know what you're buying. It's important for the buyer to either go herself or have someone she knows or can count on go to the markets that are being bought on behalf of the client to look at some sampling of the locations, not all of them. And the local outdoor company that you are buying from will be glad to host. Not going to pay your expenses, but they'll take you to lunch or dinner and provide someone with a car to ride you around the market and take you past your locations, give you more details about what kind of traffic goes by them and why they're good, or, et cetera, et cetera. And you take notes and you rate them yourself and you just get a sense. Now, this is often done before the buy is made, before specific locations are agreed to, particularly if you're buying bulletins and more, wall posters and more expensive locations. You don't want to plunk, $10,000 a month down, or 30 or 40 or 80,000 a month down for your client on something that you haven't seen yourself. Or again, someone else you trusted has seen it. So it's called riding the boards. And it's pretty basic, but it's something smart to do. And the local outdoor company will just respect you more and take better care of you if you do that. Now, the other thing for out of home is that you need to have proof. Remember I said how long it can take sometimes to get up a sort of standard outdoor showing, non-digital outdoor showing. Well, your contract with the outdoor company says that it's, the showing's supposed to go up at such and such a date, go down at such and such a date. Well, if something happens and there's some delays, your showing could be delayed, and this could be harmful if you've got a movie premiere opening or a new product launching or something that's time sensitive that you're supporting. So you really need to be sure to get the proof back from the local outdoor company, whatever you're buying, that your signs went up on such and such a date. And this usually involves a photograph of the sign up with your copy on it and some kind of sworn affidavit that it went up on such and such a date that the outdoor company will send back to you. And with digital signage, it's, of course, easier because they can also do the photograph, by the way, some of which are done with drones, I'm told. If these are, bulletins on the Lincoln Tunnel or something like that, they'll actually photograph it, and send it to you. Just take a video of it. You need to see the proof of performance and know that something's going up on the right time, at the right time. And final point about negotiating with outdoor companies. And this is the case with any media company you may be buying inventory from. You need to probe for value-added things that the media company can include with a deal. In out-of-home, it's standard to ask for what's called an override, meaning, will you leave my signs up? If they're in good shape, leave them up for a month, say. Unless this location is sold to someone else. So that's called a non-guaranteed override. In other words, if I haven't sold it to someone else, I'll leave you up and I'll prove to you that I left you up. Sometimes you're going to ask for a guaranteed override if you know that maybe their demand is soft in the market. So you can tell the client that you got twice the value, you got 2 months rather than 1 month out of the buy. So you're always going to be looking for things like that. Sometimes local outdoor companies have local sports tickets that can be made available for the client's local sales force or whatever. So just always kind of have your ears peeled to see what else can be gotten when you make the buy. We're now going to talk about outdoor creative, which is frankly an art. This is an example of not very good creative. Okay, this looks like it's running in the New York area. The company was Titan. This is a poster panel. It's 12 by 24 feet. This is a few years old. It's paper that's glued up there. And it looks like the client actually put every single thing they could think of in the on the billboard. As a result, it's very cluttered. You don't know where to look. If you were far away from it, there are things you wouldn't be able to read. It doesn't have one prominent visual. It's just bad. So it's almost like if you're doing this, you're wasting your money, okay? Because people just aren't going to look at it or get much of anything from it. So you spend all this money in outdoor, and if your creative isn't effective, you've just thrown your money away. There are ways to help with that. Now, I wanted here to give an example of a board. This one ran in, let's see, in Croatia, okay, believe it or not, which I think is where Melania Trump came from. And this is an example of something that caused controversy, which I think I've mentioned before is something you can do in outdoor because it's so unavoidable. She threatened a lawsuit over this. But the reason I actually picked it was not because of the controversy. It was because the name of the company is so small. Okay? I can barely even read it here. This is an example of somebody wasting his or her money in out of home. Another example of something, even though it's a better design, when the logo or the name of the company, you can't even see it. I mean, what's the point? So, here, by the way, here's another controversial one. I guess I did put up another couple of controversial ones. This looks like another poster panel. Okay. This one was taken. It's for a pizza company. Here's another controversial one. I'm going to talk about creative in a minute. I think I was sort of carried away by the ability to create controversy. This one attacks the UK. This one attacks Trudeau in Canada. And this is run in Alberta, all across Alberta and Canada, which created quite a debate online. But, sorry, a little brief foray into doing controversial things in outdoor and how it gets noticed and can get picked up by social media and other things because it's unavoidable. The issue of readability is one thing you can do is what's called distance testing. Pattison Outdoor is one of the larger out-of-home companies in Canada. I actually had some partnerships with them at one time or another. I know them pretty well. They've got something, okay, so you can actually paste your ad in on different media types in out-of-home, okay, and just see what it looks like, okay. And then there's distance testing. And this is where you can test. This is a poster panel. These are 12 by 24 feet in Canada. And you can test what your creative looks like from different distances. This is close, but you can test from 300 feet and 400 feet. And this is how you get a sense for whether your logo reads and people can read the name of your company. And when you do outdoor, particularly outdoor that's supposed to read from a roadside, or from a distance, I suggest you do this distance testing. Agency creatives lots of times don't like to make the logo very big. They feel like they're doing a print ad. But distance testing is one thing you can do to try to avoid the problem of unreadable creative. Okay, now let me get rid of this. Okay. Yeah, there's their formats that they'll test in. Now, on the topic of out-of-home creative, it's more than just making it readable. That's the first step. If you don't do that, you're going to score like 0. But beyond that, how can you make effective out-of-home creative? And this is my recommendation. The best outdoor creative is provocative, simple, and readable, but it's provocative. Now, one way you can make impact is when you do a bulletin, the bigger signage, you're allowed many times to do 3D effects. You can have something sticking above the board or below, or even a three-dimensional object coming out of the billboard. And boy, that can really get noticed. It's expensive to do that normally. You don't want to do it in every location, but in the right location, you can have fun and really get noticed. Now, but no matter what, you only have so much room for depth of sale in standard outdoor one, piece of creative. So again, the trick is provocative simplicity. And it's like haiku poetry, okay? I don't know if you're familiar with haiku, but I'm going to show you a few now. These are short, but they are provocative, and they suggest more than the words just on their own. They have multiple meanings. There's one haiku. There's another. Japanese poetry. 5 syllables in the first line, 7 syllables in the second line, 5 syllables in the third line. And they're supposed to relate to the time of year or that particular day. Provocative simplicity. Now, when we talk about provocative, that part of it, you have to remember that because out of home is unavoidable, it's an uninvited guest. You didn't ask to walk by a billboard, and you didn't ask to drive by. You didn't ask to have all those signs on the subway staring down at you. So as your eyes go by them, it is like a, knock, knock, knock on the door. I'm not expecting anyone. And you open the door, and if the person is just standing there and doesn't say anything or doesn't look very interesting, or you don't know them, sorry, wrong address, you're likely to close the door. So I would say that the best out of home, in that provocativeness, there needs to be some charm somehow, I think, to kind of catch your eye and make it stop for a while. So here's one I like. This is a classic. This again is actually in Canada on a poster panel, 12 by 24 feet. It's for Campbell's Soup. And the headline and the visual make you think for a minute and figure out what you're seeing and why it says what it says. And in doing so, your mind is engaged. You get the idea of Campbell's Soup being something warm on a cold day. Another one that's warm on a cold day, this one is a bulletin, 14 by 48 feet on a major highway. And you see they've done an extension at the top of the bottle above the billboard to get noticed, but also with a nice kind of provocative, interesting, humorous, charming, if you will, headline. Here's another 3D effect for a liquor company. Absolute used to do wonderful out of home. I don't think they do very much anymore, but here they've actually made a three-dimensional kind of model of a New York City apartment, like a studio apartment, and put it right up on the billboard. This, if you look down below, seems to be running, right in the middle of town, in some populated area. It might very well be Houston Street. Don't know. There are a lot of good signs around Houston Street. They cost a lot of money. They reach a lot of people. They reach kind of a trendy crowd, which is one thing Absolute probably wants to do. A lot of bars down there, right? But what other medium can you do that? Put a full-size studio apartment up for people to look at. It's crazy. Now this one is controversial. I'm going to not take credit for finding this one. A student I had in this class last year, when I asked people to do my media journey for out of home, brought this one back. Everyone looked at it and said, "Wow, it's against fur. Wow, that's great." And then they looked and got up and looked closer. And in this case, the name of the brand is Small. This one is Houston Street, by the way. But in a way, it's on purpose. It's to get you to drag you in and then want you to find out more. And the name of the company is ownyouro.org. It's not advertising fur or anti-fur. It's advertising something very different in a very provocative, amusing way. So if you want to see what it is, you can go to ownyouro.org. And this one, they had trouble getting permission to put this up. That's a little article about